everyone, Useful Engine 11 here, back again for another custom video, and this one is pretty interesting as we are going to be taking a look at Thomas, but not just a normal Thomas. We're going to be taking a look at 3 versions of Thomas in different LBSC liveries. So without further ado, let's get into this. We all know Thomas is the #1 cheeky blue tank engine who used to work in the yards at Vickerstown or Knapford or wherever it is in your headcanon. And of course, after shunting in the yard and proving himself and saving James from his crash, he was rewarded his own branch line with his 2 faithful coaches, Annie and Clarabelle. But Thomas's origins before Sodor is one of the things that fascinates me more than anything else. We obviously know Thomas worked at Brighton on the mainland, or the London-Brighton South Coast Railway. And I will say, I've seen a few different takes on Thomas's early livery. The Adventure Begins decided to paint Thomas in this weird green and white color and threw a number 70 on him. The number 70 is obviously a reference to the 70th anniversary of the Railway series, but I don't know where the white and green livery came from, although I kind of honestly like it. However, in NWR Origins, I saw Thomas as being painted in umber brown, even though the script says it's red.
I hate this kind of red. It looks like someone ate tomato soup and was sick all over me.
But however, when Unlucky Tug made his debunked video on what Thomas's livery would be before Sodor, he said that his livery would basically be a plain black color, which I now realize I've seen a bunch of customs of Thomas painted black, and it kind of makes more sense. However, I generally like all 3 liveries, so I decided to make all of them. I'll explain more into why I made all of them later, but let's just finally talk about these. First, we're going to start with the LBSC Green Thomas. Now, I will say, it is a really dang shame that they didn't make this for The Adventure Begins, as I think it would have been better with the 1942 Thomas in that gift pack that they released. But anyway, now this is an interesting model, as this is actually the newest model I've made, which is why I'm actually more proud of this one than I am the other 2, which were made over a year ago at this point. The interesting thing about this custom model is that it's actually made from a learning curve Thomas with a CGI Mattel Thomas face. I would have actually waited for a Mattel Thomas, but I thought since I had a few of them lying around, why not paint up a learning curve version? Now, I have made LBSC versions of Thomas in the past. I've made a green one and a brown one before, but they were obviously terrible. Anyway, the process is actually the exact same. I painted Thomas up in this green color. Actually, I had to mix the green to make it look somewhat right. Then I did the boiler lining and the lining on the tanks, and of course I added all the extra details like buffers and tail lamps and etc. Unlike the other 2 Thomases, this one actually has a number, 70, which was kind of hard to paint within the space, and I will admit, I feel like it could look a little bit better, but I generally think this custom turned out well, and I'm very happy with it nonetheless. Now, one thing I want to state before I actually start talking about this version of Thomas is that these 2 versions of Thomas here for the brown and black versions were actually given to me by Turbo 711, and I'm very grateful that I got my hands on these for these customs. Now let's move on to the brown LBSC Thomas, which I thought a lot of the E2s would have been painted, but apparently this was only the livery that 2 of them wore, because I'm pretty sure this livery was only meant for passenger services, and I'm pretty sure Thomas was not one of these engines trialed, because I think they were the ones without the extended side tanks. Which means Thomas would have never wore this livery in general, but it's nice to kind of theorize what this would be if Thomas did wear this livery. It's pretty much the exact same, but the only difference between this one and the green one is that this was made over a year ago, and I feel like this one could use some updating with the boiler lining and the lining on the tanks, and definitely the LBSC could be redone. And I don't think I'm going to give this one a number, as I kind of just did this for a novelty thing. Although I definitely need to give this thing a clear coat, because since this brown was very flat, I think I need to make it pop a little bit more. And finally, let's move on to the black one, which is actually the accurate version of Thomas. Like the other one, this one was made over a year ago. However, I'm more happier with this one than I am with the brown one. However, I generally think the LBSC could use updated, and I sadly haven't given this Thomas a number. I think I'm dead set on either having him be 105 or 106, as these were the only 2 that were built in 1915. I think 105 seems more fitting, but I don't know how I'm going to fit that on here. I might have to do the back just to accommodate this. But anyway, it's pretty much the exact same process. Overall, I think this black version of Thomas doesn't look too bad, although again, he could use a bit of updated, and he does need a clear coat on those wheels. Might have to get around to that soon. But yeah, so I guess to answer the question I proposed at the beginning is, why did I make all 3 of these Thomases in these liveries if only one of them is technically accurate? As usual, I have plans for these, but you guys are gonna have to wait in the future to see that. So, without further ado, hope you all enjoyed this custom video. Useful Engine 11, signing out, take care everyone, and I'll see you all next time.